Hello one and all, welcome to Seeing Through Glass. You join me in Monaco. If you haven't seen some of my recent videos, I'm back down here for the first time in over a year and I am loving life. I'm loving life in this F-Type R. It has been amazing so far on this trip. However, in recent months, I haven't hidden the fact that as much as I need, want, desire, and I'm trying to get another F-Type permanently back in my life, I do also still lust after and desperately want a 911 GT3, and specifically a 991.2 GT3 Touring or a new 992 GT3 in either normal or touring specification. However, recently, when I was driving the new 992 GT3 for a week in Wales, I thought, is it this car that I love, or just spending time with a GT3? Well, today I'm going to try and answer that question because, quite unbelievably, a friend of mine down here in Monaco has both a 991.2 GT3 Touring and a new 992 GT3 non-touring specification. So he said, well, why don't we take the two cars up onto some mountain roads and you can drive them back to back and then see, is the new car better or has the GT3 just always been amazing? I can't wait to find out. Here we are, kicking things off in still my favourite of the two. This is the 991.2 GT3 Touring. As incredible as that new 992 GT3 is, something draws me to this previous generation of the 911. I think it was probably Drive the World, when obviously I did most of the year in a 991.2 Carrera T. So I just see this shape and I go, oh yeah, that's the one that really appeals to me. But on paper, the new GT3 is better. Hopefully today, I'm going to try and find out or work out just how much better on the road. Speaking to my friend, The Touring, he goes by The Touring on Instagram, and that's how we will refer to him today. He says that new car really does come into its own on track. So maybe today I'm going to walk away going, yeah, God, the old car is just as good, but we're only doing a sort of short road test. Important to say that also we have another friend with us, Masood, who has appeared on the channel before. He's here in a very, very loud SLR Roadster. I mean, speaking of loud, listen to this car. Oh, these things are so good. Oh my God, that SLR. And that's the 992. Yeah, I'm gonna have to concentrate today. I'll see you guys at the top of the mountain. So welcome to Route La Turbie, one of my favourite roads just outside Monaco, which I have driven and filmed so many times. The perfect place, I think, to put these two cars to the test. Oh my God! I am so grateful to The Touring for this opportunity. He literally just chucked me the keys and said, let's go. And I'm out here now, living my best life. And let's not forget, just 5 minutes ago I was in the centre of Monaco, cruising around in this car elegantly and effortlessly. These manual gearboxes in these Porsches are so good, and I said it when I drove the 992 GT3 manual. It's just such a lovely gearbox. So easy to use, so sympathetic, but so engaging. And so I could be in town, being stylish, being elegant in this lovely British racing green car, and now I'm out here keeping up with the best of them. A brand new 992 GT3 and SLR. And that soundtrack, it just is so good and so engaging. Now, I will pick up on immediately the fact that that new car's front end is a lot more darting. I think I'll remember the minute I jump in it. This car still feels so good on the road. The brakes are amazing. Oh. This is what I've kind of missed this week in the F-Type, is the poise of a 911 and a GT3. Oh. Honestly, it's just so good, and I love this gearbox. I absolutely adore it. And of course, you have to remember, for the 991.2 generation, you couldn't have a PDK with the touring specification. Touring specification meant manual only, and I'd be looking at one of these cars, not that I really am, but I'd be looking at one of these cars, and it would only be with that manual box, and that makes me so happy. With the new car, you have the option of PDK. It's very nice, Portofino. I just think for days like today, you always want the manual. Oh, I don't really know how to sum up this experience, but you can probably tell from the smile on my face and the veins popping out from the side of my head, I'm loving it. Had I even mentioned, by the way, that both these cars are green? I feel like I just kind of forgot to talk about that. We've got an Underberg green, 992 in front, and then this is the British Racing Green with these lovely inserts and Magnitude Finance, I'm coming for you. Honestly, what a moment driving that car just now. But look, let's compare these two, at least visually, because one of my biggest complaints prior to this moment right now is that the new 992 generation is too big. I keep saying it's massive, especially in comparison to the 991.2. However, on paper, it's actually not. And now that we've got these cars, okay, not quite next to each other, we were planning to pull over in a sort of lay-by back there, but for the first time ever, it was full, so we just parked up on the side of the road here. And if you really look closely at the two cars, you start to realise that yes, the 992 actually really isn't that much bigger than this previous generation. But because of its kind of girth and of course this big wing, it just gives this impression of being a bigger car. And a lot of that actually has to do with the interior and the layout of the interior. Porsche took a big step forward with this new 992 generation interior, and whilst it has, well, its issues when it comes to the GT3, let's not get into the whole cup holder debate once again, it's so much nicer as a place to be. Not to say that the 991.2 isn't still lovely, but it's that interior which gives it that sense of being wider and fatter. Also, this kind of more aggressive front end with these scoops down here, just the whole car feels fat. But look, there you go. Hopefully, well, actually that's a very bad angle. That's making it look like the 991.2 is a 70s 911. You have to look at it from certain angles, and I think it's actually the rear that gives you the best sense of the fact that these cars are very similar. But still, right here, right now, because I am a non-wing guy, I'm always going to pick the touring. But of course, you can get the 992 in a touring specification, so you don't have to have that big bulky wing, but just the lines of this thing are just so stunning. And we have to applaud the touring on his specs, because yeah, look at this thing, this lovely green and these seat inserts which I mentioned, the yellow seat belts there, silver wheels. Stop making your wheels grey and black, people. Silver wheels is a vibe, and then that carries on over here with this Underberg green, which is a lot more sort of flatter and desaturated, but I think suits this car pretty well. Some things that are still going to be happening to this particular car. It's only been owned for about a month or so, so yes, I think we can imagine seat inserts once again. This being treated as more of a track weapon, because actually, let's open it up once more. I keep opening and closing this door. This car, wait for it, is PDK. That's going to be very interesting for me because I've only driven this latest variant in manual, and I've just been singing the praises, of course, of the manual 991.2. We have to quickly mention before we continue, yes, this SLR Roadster, McLaren Mercedes SLR Roadster, such a cool thing with an insanely loud exhaust. I haven't been getting close enough to this thing to really appreciate it because I'm at the back and I'm not as fast as these two guys, but it's very cool to see this out on the road and to hear it really as well. Absolute monster. Oh my god! From afar it sounds beastly, but that's a whole...
And this was made by this guy who does it by himself in Switzerland. The hand welds and the job is incredible, because when you drive it there's no drone. You know, most, let's say, like top shop exhausts are unbearable.
When you're just cruising.
Yeah, but if you see this car cruising, you would not expect, and then suddenly...
It's so good. When you were pulling out of the U-turns, I was like, Thor is here. It's like thunder.
And this is what the car should have had from the beginning.
Yeah, of course.
Because it's not obnoxious to a certain extent.
It's just power.
It's raw. It's raw. It's fantastic.
You're mad.
Oh my god.
Now, slightly different switch gear in here, so sport mode is engaged by doing that. I don't want to go onto track, that seems a bit aggressive in a car that's not mine. Let's pull out onto the road. We've got to give a little bit of space between me and the other cars in this thing because it hasn't got front end PPF. But we are still going to enjoy ourselves. Oh my god, that SLR is so loud. And yes, away we go. Now immediately, the front or the steering feels lighter. It definitely feels lighter. I can't say it feels more direct because I just literally pulled out of the lay-by, but immediately more light. I feel like I'm sitting low in the car as well. It all just feels a little bit more purposeful, and a lot of this could be in my head, but I did literally just get out that 991.2, so I feel like it's quite a good time to make these comparisons. Dare I say, it feels a tiny bit stiffer as well, just a little bit. Anyway, let's see, we're gonna get crack-a-lacking. Oh my god, that 991.2, it sounds mega. It does have a bespoke exhaust on it, that car. It's still running the stock system, which obviously has the OPF filters, but as I found out when I went to Wales with the manual 992, it still sounds so good. Porsche have done a fantastic job with the sound of this car. We're just waiting for this road to open up, then we'll discuss a little further. Whilst we are going a bit slower, let me just talk very quickly about price, because I said the prices are sort of fairly similar, but it's all a bit hit and miss. In the UK, a right-hand drive 991.2 GT3 is over 200 grand. List a 992 GT3, once you put the right options on it, it's probably 150 grand. I think it officially starts at 135 or something. But if you want to go into the used market, you're going to be asked around 250 grand for a new 992 GT3. Does that mean the value's around 200? Maybe. The big differentiator is Europe. So over here, the new 992 GT3 is more expensive, but 991.2 Tourings somewhat more affordable. I have been looking for a while, and you can pick up 991.2s for around 130 or 140,000 pounds. And to import them to the UK, you do then have to still pay VAT because of Brexit. Thanks, Brexit people. So they're not by any means cheap. They're definitely cheaper. So now that I'm out here driving these cars, I'm thinking of all different weird kinds of ways that somehow I can buy a European 991.2 Touring. And that's still where my head's at. Obviously I've just driven this for 5 minutes, but I'm looking at that car in front of me going, it is just the one. And funnily enough, the owner of the two cars kind of said the same thing. As he got back into the seat of that car, he went, oh, it's just nicer. Still haven't driven a Touring specification 992 yet. Maybe that could be the car to have. I'm going to come out and say it right now. Not loving the PDK setup in here. I know maybe when you start pushing on it will make sense, but I suddenly feel a lot less engaged, a lot less part of the experience. Anyway, we'll get through the little beautiful town of La Turbie, hit Route La Turbie once again, open this car up a bit more, and see when we get to the bottom of the hill which route I still would theoretically want to go. Now, we've been very unlucky with traffic, so I'm just holding back because I just want to do one proper blast to illustrate how insanely fast this car is with the PDK gearbox. Oh my god. We haven't got much more power than the old car, but my good lord, it takes off with this auto. And the thing is, this PDK, it's too smooth for my liking. I just can barely tell it's changing gear. Maybe in track it's a little bit more aggressive, but it's just butter. Like, you just don't even know. Therefore, it just keeps pulling. The whole car feels so much more planted, just absolutely rock solid on the road. Now, the 992 GT3 does have a ton more aero, whether it's a Touring specification or not. And obviously, we do have the big wing, but there's a lot of other things going on to kind of push this car into the road. And I feel like that even comes true at slower speeds. But yeah, it's almost a tad too serious. Not something I thought when I was driving the car, having not driven a 991.2 for a while, and with the manual. It felt fun and engaging, but suddenly, after driving that car, this thing is just too dialed in. That was kind of moving around a bit, and I was just pushing hard. In a nice way, it's still a GT3, it's still incredible. This suddenly just uber flat. Feels like a sort of F8 Tributo or a 720S, but just in Porsche form, which is great. And they've improved the car in every area, and yes, I do still want one. But I can't help but look ahead of me and go, oh, Kind of wish I'd driven that back down the hill. What a total head spinner, because after a week with the manual 992 GT3, I said I would do everything I could to try and buy one of those cars, and I still think I would love to own one of those cars, but there's just something about that 991.2 generation which I think just pulls at my heartstrings a little bit stronger. Anyway, the debate continues, but let me know your thoughts below. Which would you have? And maybe the ultimate solution is a manual 992 with the touring specification. That is still on my to test drive list. If you've enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and make sure you stay subscribed for plenty more videos to come.